All right, how is it going, ladies and gentlemen? Been a while since I've made a YouTube video. I'd say 3-4 months now at this point. I apologize to all of my subscribers. Many of you, however, are inside of my Telegram channel and inside of the Telegram group, which, if you are watching this and you are not a part of the Telegram channel or group, I highly recommend checking the links in the descriptions for my personal channel as well as the free law chat. Join both of them. I am active there almost every single day. Very rarely that I miss a day not posting there, and I post a lot of very helpful information there with regards to the matters in which we discuss here on this YouTube channel, the matters in which I am about to discuss here on this video itself, and overall just the law in general and the authorities that apply to certain provisions of law that provide you with a lot of commercial power. So today I'm going to be discussing, this is just going to be an informal discussion, but I think it's something that is extremely beneficial for people to understand who are involved in trust relationships and may be in a beneficial owner capacity or an intermediary capacity. We're going to be utilizing, first and foremost, Article 8 of the Uniform Commercial Code, which is applicable to securities, investment securities. However, this presentation is not going to be strictly geared toward securities. It's more or less geared towards entitlements, powers of direction, and how a beneficiary can retain power over their property. Because after all, a beneficiary is the owner of property, right? They are the most important owner of property because they are the ones who are ultimately benefiting from the ownership of said property, which to benefit off of property is the only reason why anybody owns property. If there's no benefit coming from the property, there's no reason to own it. Okay, so with that being said, I just wanted to jump into a couple of provisions inside of UCC Article 8. Primarily is going to be control is what we're going to get to, but I also wanted to touch on some of the definitions here because they are important. They are important with regards to securities in general, and I think that a lot of people, when the conversation of trust and trusts comes into play, a lot of people, I think, have a misconception with regards to what happens to the property when the trust is settled. And I believe that some people have a misconception that the beneficiary is completely out of the picture. They have no power over the property because of the way that trusts have been, I guess, just because of lack of knowledge, to be honest, and just the way that trusts have been portrayed in mainstream trust research materials. And it's really not a representation of who has ultimate power. Of course, the trustee is vested with powers, and beneficiary himself is also vested with powers. And in today's discussion, we are going to be focused on the powers that a beneficiary can enjoy in a trust relationship, and we're going to utilize UCC Article 8 to help us understand that. So first and foremost, the first definition that I want to touch on in UCC Article 8 is the term entitlement holder. And as a matter of fact, let me just pull up the definition of entitlement, okay, so you can understand what the term entitlement means. An entitlement is a legally recognized right or claim to receive certain benefits, privileges, or services. So that right there showcases that a beneficiary has an entitlement. So if someone is a holder of an entitlement, they are a beneficiary. Okay, so in this definition, it states that a person identified in the records of a securities intermediary as a person having a securities entitlement against the securities intermediary, aka the trustee, If a person acquires a security entitlement by virtue of section yada yada yada, the person is an entitlement holder. We're not going to go too deep into UCC Article 8 today. We're just going to be discussing the terms that apply to the presentation. So then we have entitlement order, which is a notification communicated to a securities intermediary, aka a trustee, directing transfer or redemption of a financial asset to which the entitlement holder has a security entitlement. And to come down to security entitlement means the rights and property interests of an entitlement holder with respect to a financial asset specified in Part 5. And we can just go ahead and replace the term financial asset with property. This can be with regard to real property, personal property / chattels, or anything in between, anything that could be placed into a trust and where the ownership thereof can be divided. So moving along, back to entitlement order. So this is simply an order. It's an order. Okay, it's an order to the trustee to act in a specified manner with regards to the property. Okay, so directing transfer or redemption of the property to which the entitlement holder has a security entitlement. And moving down to security entitlement, I believe that we just covered this. So securities intermediary is the next one that I wanted to touch on. Securities intermediary means a clearing corporation, a person, including a bank or broker, that in the ordinary course of its business maintains securities accounts for others and is acting in that capacity, aka is maintaining an account that has property in it. Come to securities account. Definition means an account to which a financial asset is or may be credited in accordance with an agreement under which the person maintaining the account undertakes to treat the person for whom the account is maintained as entitled to exercise the rights that comprise the financial asset. And again, we just replace that term financial asset with property. And I will be diving into Article 8. I think that Article 8 is not covered enough and is very, very important with regards to securities in general and just securities holdings and bank operations, etc. But for the most part, I want this to apply to everybody who's watching it, and not everybody might be dealing with securities in this manner. I just want to see, yes, financial asset, obligations, or any property that is held by a securities intermediary for another person in a securities account. We just end it here with regards to the conversation that we're having right now. Whether or not there's an express agreement is a conversation for another time, which, by the way, I am personally a huge fan of trusts that are constructed by other agreements that's not necessarily a trust indenture, but at the end of the day creates a resulting trust, because there's not an express agreement whereby the exact and absolute terms of the trust can be identified, which is very beneficial in terms of asset protection. So moving on, the next thing that is required for a entitlement to exist is delivery to the securities intermediary, which is very simply the settlement of the trust, or whenever the settler or the trustor vests the property inside of the intermediary, aka the trustee, for the trustee's use and ultimate oversight of the property for the benefit of the beneficiary. So obviously delivery is required because the trustee needs to have some form of control. And really what this is a shared control agreement. Okay? And what we're focusing on is how a beneficiary can maintain control as an entitlement holder in that property. And an entitlement holder has the ability to make entitlement orders. Okay. Now, there are certain trusts that don't allow this. We're not touching on those today. We're touching on how a beneficiary can maintain his control over his property, because it ultimately is his property at the end of the day, that he shares with the trustee for typically a specified purpose. But when you hear phrases such as own nothing and control everything, that doesn't mean that you I think a lot of people hear that and they say, okay, well, when a trustee is not an owner, right? When you're just thinking about in the general sense of an owner being the person that benefits from the property, I think when people hear those type of phrases, they go automatically to, okay, I need to be a trustee, I need to not benefit from anything. No, that's not how it is. And I think a lot of people also get confused as to how can I create a trust for asset protection whereby I still benefit from the use of the property while maintaining control. And they say, their minds go towards somehow being the trustee and receiving benefits, which does not typically work. But in the manner in which I'm discussing right now, I'm telling you exactly how it's done. And it's through entitlement orders, knowing what entitlements are, and control. Okay. And what I wanted to also bring up in this presentation is the Uniform Directed Trust Act. And this is a work of the Uniform Law Commission, the same persons who drafted the Uniform Commercial Code. And this is a beautiful piece of work, very short, only 42 pages with the annotations. I highly recommend checking this out. It's not enacted in every state, but this is it's still a codification of common law. Okay, it's still a codification of the principles of law, and it applies. Okay, even if it's not enacted in a state, it doesn't matter. You can still read all of these directions, all of these definitions. All the definitions will apply. You can read all of the provisions. For the most part, all of the provisions will be applicable. So here we have directed trust means a trust for which the terms of the trust grant a power of direction. Come down to power of direction. Now this is what I'm talking about here. Power of direction. If you know me, then you know that I'm a big fan of power of direction, and I've mentioned power of direction to my private associates with regard to the educational things that I post online. I think that power of direction is one of the most important terms to actually understand. So we have power of direction means a power over a trust granted to a person by the terms of the trust to the extent the power is exercisable while the person is not serving as trustee. The term includes a power over the investment, management, or distribution of trust property or other matters of trust administration. The term excludes the powers described in Section 5B. So yes, directed trust means a trust for which the terms of the trust grant a power of direction. Okay, directed trustee means a trustee that is subject to a trust director's power of direction. You come down here to trust director. This is a capacity in which the beneficiary can act. Okay, trust director means a person that is granted a power of direction by the terms of the trust to the extent the power is exercisable while the person is not serving as trustee. The person is a trust director, whether or not the terms of the trust refer to the person as trust director, and whether or not the person is a beneficiary or settler of the trust. So right here, whether or not the person is beneficiary or settler of the trust. And when you think about it, having an entitlement, being in possession of an entitlement, and having the ability to issue orders, okay, is what grants a power of direction. Okay, so that's really about it. That's really about all I have with regards to this. I just wanted to showcase some of this, show you guys the Uniform Directed Trust Act. This is work that I highly recommend studying, regardless of whether or not it's approved in your state. Once again, it does not really matter. And Article 8 as well, and understanding the applications of control and the other terms that are utilized here, such as entitlements, entitlement holder, entitlement orders, which again, entitlement holder is essentially the beneficiary, okay, or it can be the beneficiary pursuant to the terms herein. We also have some other stuff, which probably not going to go over this, but this is just a article that discusses the Uniform Directed Trust Act. You can also look into the Uniform Trust Code, which is another work by the Uniform Law Commission that is applicable to trusts that I highly recommend pairing with Uniform Directed Trust Act, as these are not necessarily codified in state law. The Uniform Trust Code is enacted in most states. So that's about all I had for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry it wasn't super organized. I just wanted to kind of jump on here, give you guys a little something to chew on, let you guys know I'm still good, and tell you if you're not in the Telegram, get in there. Hopefully I'll be back on YouTube here more soon this year. I have some cases that I'm wrapping up here and hoping to be done by sometime in the spring and be able to have more time to do things such as this for your guys' benefit. So that's about it. See you guys later.